Hey everyone, Steve here from Big Head Tech, and I don't want to say I'm the first person in the world to review this card, but I don't think there's more than a couple that have. So, I mean, if you look at the title, I don't know, I haven't decided on a title yet, so maybe I'll make it very cryptic or something. But we have another RX 5700 card, and wow, that's not super exciting. Sorry about that. The fact that it is a Challenger version from ASRock, I think might add a little bit of excitement to it. And I'm going to give you one more element of excitement that I'm personally excited about. Brand new benchmarks, brand new games, whole test suite revamp for you guys. And if you follow me on Reddit or my Facebook page or whatever have you, you'll see I'm currently trying to benchmark every card that basically is considered relevant in this day and age. It'll take some time. They're not going to be shown in today's benchmarks. I'm just going to show what I have. But hopefully everything from a 1050 Ti to a 2080, everything on the AMD side, hopefully will show up in the next couple weeks. But let's open up this box, see what it comes with, and then we'll take a look at the benchmarks. Long life dual fan design, metal backplate, FreeSync 2 HDR, AMD Infinity, 8K resolution support. Nothing on here is super new. It says up to 1750, so the base boost is 1425, 1515, and up to 1675 and 1750. We have 8 gigs of GDDR6 memory at 14 gigabits per second. Okay, that got boring real quick. Let's open her up. Sorry, I wanted the extra dramatics here. So what does this come with? Oh, it comes with a booklet. Okay. Anything interesting in here? Different languages, just how to install and plug it in. Okay, I'm okay with that. What I like is they only include, looks to be no driver disk, which is fine. I think that's probably not going to be super common with most graphics cards, but I think it's just a waste, personally. Okay, so here we have the card. We do have, now this I'm not sure if I'm a fan of. Well, I don't think it's really a big deal, but the plastic is like kind of like on here. So what this is going to lead to is this situation right here. Okay, I got it. So looking at the design here, we have 4 heat pipes, and they're going this way. So right over here is the physical core, so I don't want to take apart the card necessarily. Ooh, wait, we got some peel here. There you go. I don't want to take apart the card. I'm sorry, I really don't. There's thermal pads, but the core's right here. So we have an aluminum fin stack right here. All the heat pipes kind of meet here. Looking over the card this way here, see if you guys can see. So we have basically a metal plate, and that metal plate is, oh yeah, you can see down here, heat pads. So there looks to be no contact with the plate. Yeah, so it's really hard to see here, but there's actually some separation between the plate and the heatsink. That's fine. That actually will allow air to go down through and cool it. So the hope is that when we measure temperatures here, that it actually comes out decent. We don't know. I don't know, but I'll find out. This is definitely like a Pittsburgh card. The black and gold, it's yellow, but black and gold. But it does, I really wish it would have had a PCB extension. I mean, for $300 some, I put a PCB extension on it. It looks kind of blah, having this gap on it. But regardless, what really matters is how cool is it, and I don't measure noise yet, but is it quiet or not? So we have the standard test bench, which we'll put up here. Ryzen 5 3600 with Precision Boost Overdrive enabled. Be Quiet ASRock Pro 4 supplied by Be Quiet. the ASRock B450 Pro 4 full ATX board, 2x8 gigabyte DDR4 3600 CL19 from G.Skill. Be Quiet also supplied the Pure Power 11 and the Silent Base 801, and Crucial SSD 500 gig NVMe with a 500 gig Samsung external SSD. Now let's go into the assumptions here. Relatively standard, but just a few things. Could not overclock the AMD cards at all. CPU had Precision Boost Overdrive enabled. RAM had XMP enabled. Didn't play with the fans too much with AMD because it's based off of hotspot temp. So my standard fan curve wasn't really working ideal. And I wanted to keep the fans below 40 dBA. So I actually kept the stock configuration for fan speeds. Temperatures were between about 20 and 24 degrees ambient. I did adjust out ambient for that. And all tests were done with the 1440p primary display, 1080p secondary display. 1080p results were done on a display that had 1440p background, so do keep that in mind. And motion blur is off always when enabled, or able to. Now, a couple notes. And this is going to lead into the conclusion of the card. These cards definitely have some driver issues. Overclocking just doesn't work. When you use Wattman, you use the auto OC features. It actually reduces FPS, including undervolting. Shocker. And mind you, this actually has, I'm not sure if I showed you, 2 8-pin power connectors. So it's kind of disappointing there. But regardless, keep that in mind. Chrome, like the browser, doesn't work. It's a giant black screen. I've tried drivers, Chrome, reinstalling both, rebooting, etc. It doesn't work. So that's a big problem. Overclocking, not really that concerned about it. MSI Afterburner, you can't use it. It causes the screen to flicker, but all the cards have that issue. GPU-Z had a couple hiccups where I did have to refresh it because it was giving inaccurate readings on some things. And the stock fan curves did keep it below 42 dBA, but it was a pretty conservative fan curve. But you can definitely make adjustments within Wattman. It actually does work pretty well, but I just kept the stock one in that regard. Benchmark time. Superposition. Now, before I go too far, I just benchmarked all the GPUs I have in the office are relevant. So I'm not really going to harp on the 1080 and the 1660. They're just going to be part of my repository as I add more benchmarks to my testing. So just keep that in mind. The Pulse came in at 1177 at 1080p, and the Challenger came at 1119 1080p, so small drop there. And for 1440p, again, small drops, 7009 versus 6974, with the 1080 winning out by a decent margin, the 1660 falling a bit behind. 3D Mark Time Spy, where this is just the regular Time Spy, not the extreme. Graphics score only, the Pulse actually does win this one at 7859 versus 7823 of the Challenger, 7820 the 1080, so they squeaked out a small win, with the 1660 again picking up the tail by a decent amount. This is a new benchmark. It's Final Fantasy XIV Shadowbringers, high settings, or high desktop preset. 1080p definitely won out here. Again, the Pulse and the Challenger were right next to each other at 16879 and 16832 at 1080. 1440 was 14029 versus 13979, very close, with the 1660, especially in 1440p, really picking up the rear. Now, we're going to go into the gaming suite now. Some of these are current games, some of them are new games for my testing. The Division. The 1080 actually performed very poorly. Well, not very poorly, but worse in comparison. The Pulse 111 versus 109, the Challenger at 1080, 1440, 82 versus 81, and then the 1080 actually scored 103 and 76, and the 1660 again picking up the trail by a decent amount, 57 on 1440, 81 at 1080. This is a new one. This is Hitman 2, very high settings. We have the 1080 just straight up winning this one, 94 and 70, almost 74. The Pulse wins out by about 1.25 FPS, 8715 versus 8580 at 1080p. But at 1440, the Challenger actually wins out by about half FPS, margin of error. 1660 picking up the trail, obviously. Forza Horizon 4. I did this before and then I stopped, and now I'm doing it again because I can easily just download a demo, run the benchmark. even on a different system. So it doesn't take much there. The pulse wins at 113 versus, or 133 versus 131 at 1080p. The 1080 was really far behind, like 10% behind, actually probably close to 12 or 13 at 116. This card and the pulse tied at 1440 at 109 versus 98, and again the 1660 in the back of the bus again, 87 and 71. Benchmark that I've done before, Ghost Recon Wildlands. The pulse and the Challenger actually won out this one, 89.4 and 89.28, so tied. This actually won out at 1440p by almost 1 FPS with the 1080 just a smidge behind them. Big drop off to the 1660 at 6527 and 4803. New game my testing. I know F1 2019's up, but F1 2018 is what I got my hands on. We did the ultra settings, just Austria, just the base. The Challenger actually beat out the Pulse by 1 FPS at 1080, tied at 1440 at 91. The GTX 1080 scored 118 and 92, so it actually edged out in 1440, and then the 1660 scoring 79 and 58 respectively. Maximum core speed, not really a big deal. The 1080 scored 2005, the 1660 was 1920. Fixed to the previous video, 1756, not 1856. That was an error in reporting. And this one scored 1726, I believe. But the big question is temperatures. So if you know the reviews of the Evoke, if you look at Steve from Gamers Nexus, he showed that the thermal pads barely even covered half of it, and that's why the GDDR6 memory ran so hot. It used one plate to cover everything instead of a plate for the core like this and the Pulse does, with a secondary plate for the VRM and the GDDR6 memory modules. So that's the reason why the results actually aren't bad on the Challenger. The Pulse is better. The VRM, there's a 10 degrees delta, 35 versus 45. The core temp was 47 versus 55, so I mean that's decent amount, and ambient temperature in this scenario was 23. The memory modules were a bit closer, 52 versus 58, so 6 degree delta. The hotspot is a little bit higher than I would like, 9 degree delta, so that was, if I remember correctly, 88, yeah, 88 and then 79. So not fantastic, but we can all agree that hotspot being under 90 degrees, and that was just like one spike. Consistent hotspot was like in the high 70s, low 80s with a stock fan curve maxing out at 70%. Not bad. Honestly, really not bad. Memory temps were well within line. So if you add, it was like 79 degrees, I believe, was, yeah, because it was 23, so it'd be 79 degrees were the memory. So that was fine too. So, conclusion. Should you buy this card? It depends. Chrome having a black screen kind of stinks, and I don't know if it's my card or a known issue. Could be a driver issue, I don't know, but just not a good look. Here's the thing. My recommendation comes off of two factors: the availability of the Pulse and the issue I have with the black screen. If you can't buy the Pulse and the black screen is just my particular card issue, then I would buy this. It's fine. It's a little bit worse than the Pulse. Doesn't boost, it's like 30 megahertz slower. It runs, I don't know, 5-10% warmer. It runs well within specification, like in a silent optimized case with a air cooler, okay? It ran perfectly fine from a thermal standpoint. I'm okay with the thermals that I got. It's just not as good as the Pulse. And at the same price, I think I paid $359 plus tax and expedited shipping. So this is my take. The Pulse, in my opinion, is a better card. I like Sapphire. I like ASRock too. They haven't made graphics cards that long, but I do like them. I would say if the color fits your scheme, or if you can't get your hands on a Pulse, or if you just like this card, I mean, it has 2 8-pins versus an 8 and a 6, so that might be something in the future that might be viable. Buy it. I'll report later, and feel free to ask me. I might try to return this or exchange it with Newegg. To see, I'm going to mess with drivers first to see what the problem is, because the only issue that I have, and this is me being real, is the Chrome issue. Overclocking, I don't care about. I honestly don't. Not the way the fan curve works, I don't really care either. My concern for you guys, and this is, I look at everybody out there like me, is I don't overclock graphics cards because from game to game it might be different, is I want to take this card out, plug it into a system, run it, and have it work and work well. Maybe tweak the fan curve if it's a little bit too loud. In this case, the heat dissipation versus fan curve was fine. So that even nixes the whole idea of needing MSI Afterburner, because you can use Wattman for that too. So from that standpoint, outside of the Chrome issue, that's all I care about. Drivers will mature. I didn't really have any driver crashes, to be honest. The only issues I have was the Chrome issue. That was it. So that's my recommendation. It's a fine card. It's better than a lot of what's out there. It's just not the best. There you go. If you want to buy this, the Pulse, or anything else featured in the video, link in the description below. Liked it if you liked it, dislike if you dislike, leave a comment, get subscribed. I still have a giveaway going on too for the Scythe Mugen. But as always, this is Steve from Big Head Tech, and I'll see y'all later on down the road.